Welcome to the BrettJohnson.biz podcast, where we discuss business on purpose, radically fresh leadership, capital that transforms society, and marketplace stories that embolden difference makers. Welcome to the Repurposing Business podcast. I'm Brett Johnson, and I'm here with Brett, much fancier name, Snodgrass. Welcome, Brett.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, man. It's not too often that I get to be on a podcast with someone with the same name. So, and it's spelled correctly. So awesome. Thanks for having me.
That's right. All the T's are there, no
Yeah,
N.
that's
It's
right.
fantastic. Actually, Brett, I remember when I first came to the States in South Africa, which is where I'm sitting right now. Some of the vowels, it's like due to a lack of international competition, I figured out they let the air out of the valves in the vowels, so it's like pizza is pizza, and Mercedes is Mercedes, and
Mm.
they'll say that is it, so it's like one of
Yeah.
those things. So I arrived in the States and I said, introduced myself, and I said, yeah, my name is Brett Johnson, and they said, Britt? I said, no, Brett. B-R-E-T-T. Oh, Brett, they said. I said, anyway, when I come here and I go to the dry cleaner and so on, and I tell them my name is Brett, they write on the form B-R-A-T. That's what they hear.
B-R-A-T. Yes. People
Yeah.
always put an N in my name, or actually when I say it over the phone, they put Brad, right? B-R-A-D. And
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, I can't quite get it right. Now, Snodgrass, you can't quite forget that. So everyone always even forgets my first name and just goes straight to the last name. So because
Yeah.
my kids are gonna get teased no matter what we name them their
Yeah.
first name. So
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Great. Well, it's good to have you with us and excited to hear about your journey. So why don't we dig into that, Brett, and just talk a bit about your background, where you grew up, and some of your journey into the business world that you're involved in nowadays.
yeah. Yeah. Number one, thanks for having me on the podcast. Really appreciate it. So yeah, Brett Snodgrass here. I'm a son of the king, faith-driven entrepreneur. I'm a husband to Karen, father of four beautiful kids, and born and raised Midwest, Indiana. So my dad was a high school basketball coach. So if you've ever watched the movie Hoosiers, that was pretty much my life. I was a basketball player, went to college to play basketball. Uh, and was always just kind of driven, always loved to create, always loved to achieve. And it kind of just happened to start in business, right? Later in my 20s. And I've been in the real estate business. I've been flipping houses. We do rentals, we do seller financing, and just bought our first kind of commercial nursing home type of building. So I've always just been interested in creating, building, flipping, and it just happened to be real estate the last 17 years. And
Mm,
love that business. It's a great tool. It's fuel for my passions, and really my passion really has blossomed into really in the entrepreneurial space of men and Christian men pouring into Christian business owner men. And we developed an organization called Iron Deep about a year ago. And I love that organization. That's my passion, just pouring into men that are fathers, husbands, business guys. So we pour into three areas. So faith, family, and business. And love that. And that's kind of me in a nutshell.
fantastic. And what gave you the passion for men who are in business, men who have families? What's the driver behind that? What got that going for you?
Yeah. Uh, I think ultimately I've I've been a Christian for about 14 years, so I didn't give my life till later in life. I was 30. I'm 44 now,
Mm,
and I've been walking with the Lord for about 14 years, and I've been a part of, local churches, small groups, been a
mm,
part of that, even men's types of retreats within the church. And then I've also been a part of mastermind groups with business guys, entrepreneurs, real estate mastermind groups for the past decade. And so I've seen kind of both worlds, and really the Iron D, my passion was always kind of felt a little bit unique in both worlds, right? In the business world, I wanted to, pour in and talk about my faith and talk about God, which I did, but some of the men, um, didn't quite understand that. We're all chasing, we're all searching, we're all trying to achieve and reach success and have wealth and be rich and all that stuff. And then
Yeah.
and to build something and just that driven man. And then in the church world, be part of these groups, and people maybe didn't understand the drive
Yeah.
behind, owning your own business. So really it's just the putting the two worlds together. And really just being about building something and creating something as far as the businesses. But what is the end goal and all that? Really, it's for the kingdom. And if I can help men build their businesses and help them be the best man that God designed them to be, or the best husband or father, um, and to build something, and it's all for the kingdom. So really, it's that's just, I think, the design and God gifted me with. So that's kind of where we're landed, and that's just, again, in my passion in it. So.
Great. So how did you come up with the name Iron Deep? There must have been some thought behind that.
Yeah. Yeah, Iron Deep basically obviously is iron sharpening iron, men sharpening men, from Proverbs. And I think it's just important to have a group of men that we can be raw with each other, we can be honest with each other, we can
Mm.
celebrate each other, challenge each other, sharpen each other, help each other grow. So it's not like a social club. It's a men that are on mission, honestly. They're on mission for certain things in their life. They're on mission of their faith, on mission to be lead their families, on mission to create in a business environment. So really, that's where iron comes in. The deep
Right.
part comes in again when I would go to some of these groups, mastermind groups in the secular world or in the church world. A lot of times, I just kind of felt something was missing with the depth of my relationships.
Yeah.
So really deep comes in the depth of your relationship with Christ, and then the depth of your relationship with these other guys. So, my goal was to create an environment to grow, but then a brotherhood along with that. The guys that are going to stand in each other's corners, celebrate each other, challenge each other, and to get into each other's messy lives. I
Yeah.
think that many times we have these boundaries or these barriers. They're like, you know what, I can talk about this, but I'm not going to go here. And
Right.
my goal is just to say, let's just lay it all out. Let's come as we are. Let's celebrate, let's challenge, let's celebrate, but let's just be who we are. And because that's the only way we can grow if we're honest about that. So really, that's kind of where the name was born.
Yeah. So do some of the guys self-select out of that because they don't want the iron sharpening iron or they don't want to go too deep?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Definitely. We typically start with what we call a men's awakening. This is a 3-day intensive retreat. So someone that's interested in Iron Deep, maybe they listen to our podcast, the Iron Deep podcast. I wrote a book called The Secret War Within. Maybe they get some of that and they're like, man, I'm really interested in that. So we invite them to a 3-day intensive retreat. So they get to know, like, is this for me? Is this not for me?
Right.
Because we lay it all out. I model, I lead that way. So I think they're gonna know, like, most people love it. Yeah, that it's unique, and they walk away full. They want more of what the group, the environment that it provides. But some guys don't. They're like, you know what, I want to stick with the boundaries, with the barriers. I
Yeah.
don't want to go
Yeah.
there, right? And that's
Yeah.
okay too. So yeah, I think it does self-select after they
Mm.
come to one of our intensives.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. That's a good way to get going. Yeah. And is this focused primarily in Indiana or is it beyond that, or how does that work?
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're pretty young, getting it started. I mean, the first event we had people from all over the nation of the United States. The second event we had was a little bit more centralized to the Midwest. So we
Yeah.
have Tennessee, Indiana, Ohio,
Mm.
some of the Midwest guys, and now we're developing this 12-man core group. And I just felt like, honestly, the Lord leading with a little bit more centralized, a little bit easier to get together.
Yeah.
In our business world, we always talk about getting belly to belly with like our clients, or getting, in
Yeah.
person. And I think that we had COVID come in, people have the boundary of Zoom, which that's a great tool to help bridge the gap. But my goal is, again, it's about brotherhood, it's about intimacy.
Yeah.
And I think you can't do that over the Zoom.
Right.
So really it is kind of being more centralized to the
Yeah.
Midwest. But hopefully as we grow, there's going to be other guys raised up as leaders that maybe want to open up in
Yeah.
their neck of the woods, right? So you're from Tennessee, obviously. I got a couple of guys that have came from Memphis, Tennessee. So that's another example. Like,
Mm.
hey, as we grow, can we open up something there? So
So we're getting to the old days of what we used to call the executive belly rub. You got to get up close, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And nothing against Zoom. I mean, I do the podcast Zoom. I've done small group Zoom. I've done a lot of that, and it's a great it helps, right, with content and
Yeah,
with connection and with the convenience, right? I don't have to
yeah,
drive to your home or whatever that is, but then you just don't get some of the intimacy or some of the brotherhood or some of the praying over
mm,
somebody or some of the putting a hand on the shoulder or the hug or let's just get our presence, right? We just don't get that with the Zoom.
yeah,
So that's the goal of
yeah.
what we're doing.
Yeah, we had some couples around yesterday morning, and then the last lot left at 4 p.m., and you don't get it, you would not last that long on a Zoom and
Right.
then get to the real stuff. So I like the idea of the virtual driving people into a physical space or going from
Yeah.
there into a physical space, but still having the physical space. And I must say that's something I love about being in South Africa. There's a lot more of getting together than there is in the US, where it's more about efficiency and, I don't want to
Yeah.
take 45 minutes of your time.
Product. Yeah,
Yeah,
productivity. And it's just getting more and more like that. I mean, used to be you could drive yeah, I'll drive 20, 30 minutes to get to a men's
yeah,
breakfast or group. And now it's like, I, I don't want to waste my time, and it's just starting to get like that.
yeah,
And yeah, so there's a good balance to it all. So
yeah, yeah. Excellent, excellent, great. So tell me about just flipping back on your career a little bit. So as far as I understand, your dad, basketball coach, your mom was also a teacher, right?
she was, yes. Mom was a preschool teacher. She stayed home with us when we were young, but she's always been in the preschool setting. She opened up a kids place, which is the daycare type of setting.
Yeah,
She's always loved kids, but dad was a high school teacher and
yeah.
high school basketball coach. Yeah, very middle
You,
class
you
family.
started teaching a bit yourself?
I did, yeah. So I went to school to as an elementary education major. I taught for about a year and just realized, man, this is just not my environment. Nothing against teachers. We need amazing teachers. But honestly, it came down to honestly a little bit. I love to create, I love to build, and I love to teach, right? I mean, I do the podcast, I do the meetings, the meetups, the men's group, and I love to teach, but I love to teach maybe different types of things. And one of the things was, and I remember my dad telling me, he's like, he's the teacher for 33 years, and he doesn't ever remember having $5,000 more in his bank account.
Yeah,
And that was just one thing. I was like, man, like 33 years of living paycheck to paycheck. I was like, I just don't know if I
yeah,
want to do that. So that's really kind of got me interested in the business world.
yeah, yeah, great. And so then you hopped into real estate. Did you have any mentors, or how did you get into the real estate side?
Yeah, definitely. So, it kind of started. I'll just kind of take you back. This is part of my testimony too. So I didn't, like I said, I didn't give my life to Christ when I was until I was 30. 20s really, it was just all about Brett. It was all about glorifying Brett, narcissistic, kind of selfish. I want to do what I want to do, make a bunch of money, and ended up having a child out of wedlock at about 26, 27. Had to move home with my parents. I was broke. And dad introduced me honestly to a friend of his who was a real estate guy. He was a real estate developer. He bought and sold land in southern Indiana. Got to know him. I was just helping him find deals, bird dogging, and just kind of finding these pieces of land for him. And my one of my commissions was $7,000. I got a $7,000 commission, and I've never seen that much money in my life. I was trying to substitute teach, and I was making like 12,000 a year at that time. So $7,000, I was like, this is like the most money I've ever seen in my entire life. And I got to ride around with this guy, and I got to talk to him, and honestly, at the end of the day, I was like, this guy's not that smart. Uh, he's not even that nice. He's just has found a system and a process to do this,
Yeah,
to build wealth. So it kind of gave me the confidence on that. And then in 2007, I bought my first house and we flipped it. We made $6,000, which wasn't anything to brag about, but that was my first deal. And then the next year we did 100 plus of those. And then now we've been doing it 17 years. So yeah, I guess that first guy, that land developer, was kind of a mentor. Taught me what to do, what not to do, maybe. Learned from him. But I think from then on, I've had mentors, I've hired coaches, I've just surrounded by people that have been in the real estate space. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's not that complicated. It's not rocket science. I think teaching, honestly, when I compare teaching elementary to real estate investing, teaching is much more difficult. But we make obviously a lot more money here, and it's and that's not it. But I love creating. I love the entrepreneur. I love building, and the
Yeah.
teams. You know, my passion is build pouring into my real estate team and
Mm.
all that. But that's a little bit of the background of it.
Great, great. And so you started just with flipping individual houses, buying, and so forth. The real estate market has changed quite a bit with what's happened with exchange rates, money is less available, and so forth. Are you still positive about real estate? And what are you seeing right now, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Brett, you've probably been in the real estate kind of space for years now, and yeah, I've been 17. We've had to pivot a lot of times.
Mm.
You know, we first started buying REO properties from banks, if you remember 2008, right? I mean, I'm buying these things pennies, pennies, pennies on the dollar, flipping them, very cheap properties, very discounted properties. We were buying in Indiana, we were buying in Ohio, buying in Florida. And then a few years later, couldn't really do that much anymore. Then we
Yeah.
started flipping properties, we started fixing them up, flipping them. Then that's a job, and I'm hiring contractors. I'm managing contractors, so I did that for a few years. Then in 2014, I said, you know what, I just want to buy and sell, clean them out. So we started the wholesaling model, and that's when I started scaling and building this team. Anyways, fast forward to till today. People have been talking about this real estate crash for 8 years now or 10 years or whatever it is. Like people, I mean, I was reading had a guy come to one of our mastermind meetups and he was talking about, yeah, hey, listen to this news channel, 2015, the real estate crash is right around the corner, right? Uh, 8 years ago, right? And how many COVID hits? You
Mm.
better hold on. You better hold on to your seatbelts. It's
Yeah.
coming. It's coming. And here we are, 3 years later. And so I am positive,
Yeah.
very positive. I think that real estate is a great tool. Do we have to pivot? Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we're always adjusting, we're always pivoting. We're doing things right now that we're just not didn't have to do as much. So we do a lot of seller financing, right? We do a lot of that. So we'll buy properties, we'll fix them up, we'll sell them, and we'll be the bank. That's a lot different than what we used to do. Because again, do our rates look pretty attractive to these individuals? Absolutely, because the traditional rates are pretty high as well. So just things like that, always pivoting, always figuring things out. We just bought this nursing home type of building. We haven't done that before, so we're like, you know, just trying to look and just trying to pivot. So people that get into the mindset of this is the way we've always done it, it's just not going to work. I mean, that's what I love about real estate. It's new, it's attractive, and it's like you're always trying to adapt
Mm.
to what the market is. So, can
Mm.
you be successful in a high market? Yes. High interest rate? Yes. Low market discounted rates? Yes. I mean, but you're going to have to pivot and you got to be prepared for the gap. So, last year we had about 6 months that it was tough. It was tough, and we're trying to figure it out, but you have to be prepared for that gap because there is a gap until
Right.
you can scale, until you can grow. But you got to weather that storm. And I think that's the key. That's going to take guys down and then raise
Mm.
people up. So
Mm. Mm. Do you feel any sort of sense of calling to real estate, or is it a tool for you?
I think it's always been a tool for me. It's always been fuel for the passion for for the ministry. It's been a great tool for financial freedom. I mean, I don't get crazy excited about fixing up a home and making it beautiful. I get excited about some parts of real estate. I think I'm in the season of now. I get excited about other people's success. I get excited about my team's success. When they are successful, I get excited about them when they hit their goals. I get excited
Mm.
for them when they get to do things that they haven't done before. Maybe they get to buy a new home. Maybe they get to take a certain trip with their family. I get excited about that. Brett's lifestyle, you know, as far as the money piece is not going to really change. So for me, I think it's always been a tool or
Yeah.
fuel for something else. Maybe it's not the thing, it's the thing that gets you to the thing.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, man, what a great tool that now maybe I could develop. And and I still want to do my ministry into this business. So I want to say like I don't do any of that. Like we have a faith-driven business. We pray in our meetings. I pour into the team. I love doing that, but it's also fuel for this other organization, Iron Deep, where I maybe don't have to raise a bunch of money, or I don't have to have a bunch of donations come in, or I just say I just love doing this, and
Hmm.
it's cost me money, right? But I love doing it, and I think
Yeah.
that's the calling. So both, I think for me are I'm just called to pour into people to empower. I think one of it is to raise up leaders. I think
Yeah.
one of the things that God maybe has gifted me at that I love to do is raising up leaders. It can be my real estate team, it can be in this other Iron Deep business. But just love to raise up leaders, and I want to see them succeed. I want to see them be independent, and to do that gives me, I think, the most fulfillment when I can see them do it.
Hmm. So, Brett, recently I had a one of these marketplace minutes I do. It's literally just a minute, and one of the things was about find your job in the Bible. And so, just figure it out, because if you can figure out that you and God have the same job, it really, really helps you put your faith and your work together. So, some guy commented on LinkedIn and said, uh, "Do you have any views on real estate?" And I said to him, "Well, I found about 1,500 verses in scripture that deal with real estate, property ownership, property rights, and so on. So
Mm,
I think it is a big deal."
yeah.
And so it seems for you like real estate is one of the ways in which you're able to disciple people, to shape people, to bless people, to grow people.
I think so too. I mean, I'm always just trying to figure out ways. I think bless people is the right word. Real estate investors, number one, we can get a bad reputation.
Yeah,
For example, think about the landlord tenant relationship.
right.
So I got about 68 rentals, and it's just a very unique kind of torn relationship. But what
Yeah,
if we could bless our tenants? Like what if we could not talk about them this way? My tenant did this, or my tenant ripped the house apart this, or they're not paying this, but what's some ways we can just bless them? So these are some things that I think about. What's the Lord calling to this? So yes, I think it can be a ministry for sure. Any business can be a ministry, and I love real estate. I think I love the whole real estate business because that's just what I have grown up with, that I known, and now I'm in some other groups with some other business owners that are not real estate guys, and I realize how blessed that this business is. Like it's like because I see some of the struggles that they're going through, and I'm like,
right.
wow, I'm so glad I'm in this business.
Yeah,
So yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah. I was just up in another country this week with some guys who are doing property development, and they have different parcels that they're developing, hundreds of homes in the different parcels and so forth. And so we were chatting about it, and they were talking about selling lots that people are going to build houses on.
Hmm.
And so the next day when I met with them, I asked them, I said, "Look, just a question for you. Uh, are you willing to sell any of your children?" And and they looked a little bit shocked. And I said, "Well, maybe even if you have 10 kids, what about just sell the younger two to fund the others?" And so I said,
That's a tough
"Well,
question, but that happens honestly in much
it
of the
does happen.
world, right?
No, it does happen. Yeah." So I said to them, when I see you talking about selling lots to fund other things you want to do, I don't see the lots or the plots of land. I see houses filled with people. I see a whole
Mhm.
community
Yeah.
that can be discipled, that can be grown, that can be given a lifestyle, that can be educated, and so forth. And so you got to be careful. Yes, you need to make money,
Yeah.
but within all of those homes and all those pieces of land, there are actually families that become part of your household. That led to a great conversation. I mean, they have it in their hearts,
Yeah.
and real estate is a great opportunity to reach a lot of people and to have a lot of people in the scope. I mean, if you're renting out almost 70 units, then you get probably 4 people a unit or something. That's a lot of people. I mean,
Yeah.
you probably got a 300-person church right there, let
Yeah.
alone all the other places that where you're
Yeah.
selling. No,
So that and
Yeah.
And yeah, I love viewing it like that. Cause yeah, like so we do three buckets. You know, we flip houses, we do our rentals, and then we do seller financing. So the seller financing too is just like we're able to provide this opportunity for, we call them penalty box buyers. They're not bad buyers by any means, but maybe they're self-employed. Maybe they put drywall up for a living or lay roofs or they own a restaurant. And now
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm a self-employed individual. When I walk into a Chase Bank and try to get a loan, they look at me funny because I
Yeah.
write off a lot of stuff with my businesses. I have a lot of depreciation. So
Yeah.
I know what a penalty box buyer is. So for us to lean in and to offer opportunities for penalty box buyers, self-employed individuals that banks can't do as well, that's just another opportunity I love
Yeah.
doing and blessing. And you know, community, right, is huge. So as a real estate investor, yeah, what can you do differently to bless these communities? And I think that's where I do get really, really excited. Because it's one thing, you know, we might sell a house to an investor out of California and he might do something cool with, but to sell to community, people that are going to really help the communities, that's what I really get excited about.
Yeah. I love the penalty box buyer concept. How do how do those people find you? Is it because you're selling the unit and you become the seller financer type of situation?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So it's just, you know, branding, agents, people that just know what we do. It's kind of like the CarMax of the real estate industry. We can buy homes from individuals, we can sell homes for individuals, we can finance the homes, uh, our homes with individuals. So it just gives us honestly a leg up. And I think that that's a pivot that has kept us going, kept us
Yeah.
alive, actually kept us thriving. Like we're actually doing better. People, I see other real estate investors in our space struggling. They're like, I don't know how to make this work. The market's not the same as it used to be, and all these different things. We've pivoted and we're like thriving. I'm like, this is a niche. It's a brand. No one else really is doing it as much in our market. So it's just helped us thrive. So we're thriving. We're helping out individual penalty box buyers, self-employed that I understand because I've been on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And what a blessing it's been for us and for them.
Mm. I love the concept that God takes a liability and turns it into an asset. So your industry goes through a crunch, interest rates go up, the inventory of houses drops, the ability to get that 2, 3, 4%, 20, 30-year fixed is gone. And so that looks like a problem, but you've turned it into an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what I love. I love to create. I love to think. I mean, I think entrepreneurs, I think when we get in these traps of doing what we've always done, same old thing for years. And sometimes we got to take a step back. And did I go through a tough, I mean, we went through a tough time, 6 months of like, we
Yeah.
actually lost money 6 months in a row in our business. And we'd never done that. 17 years, never lost money six
Yeah.
months in a row over again.
Yeah.
And then we're like, what do we do? What are
Right.
we going to do? And how are we going to pivot?
What questions did you ask to get out of that trap, if you like?
Um, just obsessed with problem solving. Coming up with these mantras in our organization of just obsessed with problem solving. How are we going to solve this problem? How are we going to think outside of the box, think differently? It takes yourself back to the very beginning. I mean, you know, if you take yourself back 15, you know, for me, 15, 16, 17 years ago, you're just thinking, how can I develop a process or a system to this? What niche can we really dig into, right? We can't do everything, but what can we be known for? What can we niche into? What's working and not working? The 80/20 rule. Like I'm looking at my business and I'm like, okay, what is not working? What are we not going to do at all?
Yeah.
Even if it looks pretty, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Just do this thing over here. So just things like that. Yeah, and I don't know, but I think it's just, you know, whiteboarding it out, getting mentors, getting coaches, looking at the 80/20 rule, what's working, not working, and really just get nitty-gritty on your business. I think for the past probably for the past, let's just say 5 years, a lot of real estate investors between, you know, 2021 and 18, 17, that wasn't that hard.
Right.
Um, the market made up for their mistakes. Oh, they spent too much money and took too long to flip this house. Oh, it just appreciated by 20K. Thank you.
Mhm.
You know, it's that's not happening anymore. So I think it's weeding out that, and
Yeah,
now people are going to have to just be better, right?
yeah, yeah.
So,
There's an interesting verse in the Old Testament that says that when the people went into the promised land, it says just in brackets on one of the verses, these pockets of people were left unconquered to teach warfare to a generation that had not known warfare.
mm,
Yeah, so it's a concept that we will get sloppy unless we stay in the battle.
right.
And sometimes an economic downturn can lead towards that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
think there's something to say about that, just to kind of piggyback on that. So one of the things was I got out of the business for about 3 years, and I was kind of in the owner's box,
yeah,
and I'll be the first one to say I wasn't sharp after coming out. So I had to
yeah,
step back in about a year ago, and I wasn't sharp. And I
yeah,
think one of the things that I love Iron Deep is how can we stay engaged? How can we stay sharp? Because if we are not in the battle, we get soft.
right.
We lose it, right?
Yeah.
Just like anything. So
Mm.
anyways, that's just something that just kind of came to mind.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I think being a player coach rather than just a coach is good. And we can talk about passive income and you don't have to work. Well, for me, that's crazy because that's when we do get sloppy, we get opened up to temptation, and
Yeah.
we are less dependent on God. And
Yeah.
eventually I realized that if God gave me 10 million, I'd have a $20 million channel challenge. That's the way it is. He wants
Right.
to keep us on our toes.
Yeah.
And so that's really, really good. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I was just chatting with a guy not so long ago who's in the car rental business. And he felt that God told him, you need to pare back the business. You need to get rid of vehicles and you need to really tighten your belt on the business. And then COVID hit and he lost his customers.
Mm,
But he'd already taken the steps. But on the flip side, there were a lot of people who would be your penalty box buyer guys.
mm,
They were good people. They were trying to run a business. They needed a vehicle, but the banks wouldn't touch them.
right.
So
Yeah.
he started a rent to buy program on cars.
Hmm.
And that took off beyond the rental car business. I mean, it's like, okay,
He's
I'll
offering a niche that
yeah,
different, right?
yeah,
I love
yeah.
it. That's
And he's
awesome.
done his homework. He knows the automobiles. He knows which cars will last, which ones will appreciate. It's not like I want a Lamborghini. No, no. I have 4 cars or 5 cars. These are the rates. This is what you're going to pay. This is what you're going to end up paying in terms of all the costs and everything. But it
Mhm.
is yours after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And he's using it as a vehicle to disciple them financially,
Mm.
to teach them the financial literacy, the financial skills, and so on, so that they can get out of the hole, get out of the penalty box, and get to the next level, which is partly what I imagine you're doing, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of the next step, right? It's like, hey, how can we help you? All right, maybe you bought this seller finance, but would you want a lower rate? Could we help you get it refinanced? What does
Mm.
that even look like? So
Yeah,
that's part of our program as well. And then and some of these buyers are investors, right? So they're people they're buying their rental properties too. So teaching them about investing as well. So yeah, that's it. That's probably out of all the business, out of every bucket that I have, that's my favorite, I would say.
yeah.
So
And that's the one born out of necessity in many respects.
right, exactly. So, but
Yeah.
again, I'm thinking about problem solving. I'm like, man, I love that part of the business. I don't even like some of the other parts of the business, like rentals, for example. Like I'm not a huge rental guy, so like now I'm asking the questions, do I do that or do I just go more into this, right? Niche it down
Yeah.
even more. And this is just what we do. And you talked about niching it down, like the certain number of cars the guys has, like we niche it
Yeah.
down with our prices. Like here's what we buy. Here's what, because whenever we got outside of the box and we bought, you talk about a Lambo, well, we would buy an expensive house, and we're like,
Yeah.
that's just not us, right? It's just
Yeah.
not what we do.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's just an example.
I love it. I love it. Great.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to your R&D group of guys that you're dealing with and you're shaping, um, how much is it, do they invite you into their business space and how much do they invite you into their personal space, or is this quite well blended together?
Hmm. The goal is it to be quite well blended. Most of the guys are they're used to inviting people into their business space, and maybe not to the nitty gritty, maybe the depth, but they're used to talking about business. They're used to talking about sales. They're used to talking about growing. I mean, they're
Yeah,
used to talking about all that money stuff. The personal life they're not used to talking about. So maybe
yeah,
they invite more into that.
yeah,
But yeah, basically the three areas are where's your relationship at with the Lord? It has to start there. That your identity has to be into that. And what does that look like for you to really walk as a businessman with the Lord?
yeah,
So that's where it starts. Family. I'm very passionate about that. Family is very challenging for myself. It's also very challenging for these guys because they can lead their business, they can be driven at their business, but then when it comes to their families, they're passive. They
right.
sit because they're exhausted. They don't have the energy. They
Yeah,
are leading everything else that they left
yeah,
this. There's this passive
yeah,
in here. So can we rise the boats? Can we lead our families, be a good father, be a good husband, be intentional there, but then also our businesses as well. So the goal, and it's nothing's ever perfect, is to invite us in. And some of the guys are killing it in business, but their private lives are tough. So,
yeah,
hey, how can we help you there? Vice versa, right? So
yeah,
it's a nice blend.
yeah. Okay, so I'm always thinking integration. So I'm thinking, okay, you got the work, you got the family, and so have you been able to work with any families that are multi-generational in terms of getting the kids into business and getting the fathers? I mean, I remember being up in Wisconsin a little while ago, and I was talking to this guy, just come back from a 10-day or 2-week overseas business trip. He's exhausted. He's barely seen the family, but he trots off to this conference where I'm speaking. And he's telling me about this dilemma with these teenagers who doesn't understand that he had to go to Italy and he had to go to Africa to do this stuff, but he's doing it for the family. And I said to him, you own the business, right? He said, yeah. I said, make them shareholders.
Mm.
Just they're teenagers, can be a small percentage. But so then they understand the trip, right? And
Mhm.
why you're doing it. They become part of the decision making. You're starting to grow them up and so forth. I don't know how
Mhm.
old your kids are, Brett, but have you seen any of the guys, or have you seen it where people start to bring their kids into the business
Mhm.
and so that they begin to blend the business, the family, all of these elements? Have you seen any of that?
Yeah. Number one, you're definitely talking my language. I mean, I love the conversation. My word really for this year was just more integration, trying to get the family involved because I've been that guy. Even Iron Deep ministry. I mean, you've seen men lose their families because they're so into their ministries, right?
Right. Yeah.
So even with Iron Deep, I'm trying to do things that involves family. So a couple other events that we do, we're doing a couples soulmate retreat, we're doing
Yeah.
a family mission trip. So we're doing stuff like that with that organization. But I'm really into my kids are pretty young, but I do have a 17-year-old daughter. And she's helped me out with a little business, but I'm very interested in going down that road and being a core piece of how to integrate. Could be
Mm.
kids with your work, could be, but how do you do it together? Because again, men are constantly pulled away from their
Yeah.
families. And I joke around that a lot of kids don't even know what dad does. They say,
Correct.
What's your dad do for work? I have no idea.
And
He's
that's so
not he's
good.
not here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Many
so
years ago, there was a guy, Floyd Kwame. He was one of the first, he was the VP of sales for Apple way, way, way back. I think it was Apple. And then he was a real estate, an investor, a venture capitalist with a big firm. And he said with one of their companies, they had an annual picnic and they struggled one year to find a picnic site big enough. So they just had it at the office. They had an open piece of land where they're building a new office building, but it was just dirt at the moment. And they had it there. They had to call the San Jose police because so many people came.
mm,
And he realized these kids don't know what dad does. They don't know what mom does. They go off to work, but now they got to see for the first time. They're just like,
right.
oh, my dad's in computers. Well, what does he do? They don't really know. So I love that bridging of the gap and finding ways so that they can understand. And I think it's challenging for
It
young people
is.
to know what to do because they don't know what their parents do. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I think, and just start off somewhere. It could be last year. My daughter, she was 16, just got her license. So, I had her drive me to the office and hang out at the office and just kind of see what we do in some of our team meetings, things like that. So, she's helped me on the back end with our CRM systems and things like that. And she just texted me last night. It's like, hey, what else can I do to make some money? Right? She's interested in money. She just turned 17 and obviously at that age. And so I'm trying to think about, okay, again, problem solving. Like that's a whole different problem. Like how can
Yeah.
I get my daughter involved that's not entitled to where like, she's gonna try to take over my business when she's 24, right? Because some of these kids are
Yeah.
thinking that, like, oh, I'm gonna be taking over dad's business, but what does that look like? And these are some of the sharpening navigations just to go through mentors that
Yeah.
we're looking for. And then I
Yeah.
got young kids and like, I got 10, 8, and 5. And what does that look like, right? What does that look like in our world of work or even the ministry opportunities? So things that we're navigating through that love the integration model.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
another uh, there's another guy that I follow. They've developed something called Family Teams, and I've had him on the podcast. Jeremy Pryor is his name, and I've kind of followed them that they help with some of that of developing family types of businesses.
Nice.
That's just one
Yeah.
thing I'm
Yeah.
kind of getting into.
Yeah. So, Brett, tell me a bit about The Secret War Within. Why did you write it? What's it about? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah, The Secret War Within, it's a book that published a few months ago. It's an allegory. And if you ever read C.S. Lewis novel, Lion, Rich, and a Wardrobe. Maybe The Shack is a popular allegory type of book for
Yeah.
Christians. Um, it's kind of like that, but it's a very modern day, and it's really, about 60-70% of my own experience. There's a guy
Yeah.
named Nolan. He's a real estate investor, and he has it all what the world offers, right? He's chased success. He is successful. He has money, wealth, beautiful family, nice, amazing home, car, all that. But he just finds something missing. And it's a book really just about pulling back the curtain and showing what he's thinking about, how he's feeling, what he's battling in the secret war within
Okay.
himself. And he gets invited on an adventure and eventually finds meaning, finds purpose. And it
Yeah.
happens to be through these other characters on this adventure with God, with Christ, with the Holy Spirit. And that's what the book's about. I've had amazing response to it. Men can put themselves into the particular book very well. It's a
Yeah.
very easy read. And so the hope is a lot about identity. What is your
Mhm.
identity wrapped into? What are you chasing? What are you searching
Yeah.
for? And it's about intimacy. So identity and intimacy means more like, with God. How do you develop the intimacy with God? So hopefully,
Right.
to develop the picture of
Mm.
of identity and intimacy is what it's about.
Fantastic. I like that. That's great. And I'm sure it'll be a real encouragement to people. And as you look forward, the hopelessness among young people is a bit of a challenge. So how do you instill hope in your daughter and within just people that you're working with? Um, what do you do to infuse hope? I mean, you live in an industry that's cyclical by definition, and
Hmm.
so I'm sure the joy levels go up and down, and with decisions of the Fed and interest rates and other people who make stupid decisions that impact your world or good decisions, how do you maintain hope and how do you pass it on?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think it just starts with you, number one. I mean, how am I spending my time? How am I modeling it? My daughter really probably isn't gonna listen to everything that I say, but she probably will follow some of the stuff that I do. So, what am I
Yeah,
doing? How am I treating her as a woman? How am I, connecting with her as a dad?
yeah,
She's in the stage where she's looking for a connection, probably, with other boys, right? So
yeah,
what does that look like? How am I treating my wife, right? Because she's watching all that. Um, how do I just extend hope? So, it starts off with me and modeling that, and then just honestly just pouring into her, getting into her life, asking her questions, and I think just being ready for when she's ready.
Right.
Uh, because I think at that age, it's like, sometimes we have these plans of like, oh, I'm gonna take her out. We're gonna go on this date, and I'm gonna say all these amazing things, and she's gonna listen to all these amazing things, and she's gonna walk out of there just a changed person. And that doesn't happen. What does happen is sometimes she comes home and it's 11:15 at night,
Yeah,
and dad's tired, and
yeah,
she just wants to talk, and I got
yeah,
to be ready. I have to be prepared in that. So I think I just being ready when she's ready, just not all in your time all the time. Connection over correction. Like sometimes we want to be our kid's Holy Spirit, and we're like we want them to be this perfect child and to behave perfectly and to get
yeah,
good grades and to pick the perfect school that you want them to go to and have the perfect job. And humans are just messy.
yeah.
You're messy, I'm messy, we're messy people. So connection over correction. She's at that stage where like I just want to connect with her. I want to
Mm,
want to connect because she's going to be out. She's going to be an adult soon. And is she, when she's 22, is she going to come to dad for something?
yeah,
So really that's some of the goals now. Now my other kids, yeah, I mean it's there's the stages of training, coaching,
mm,
consulting. That's kind of, the different stages. So it is, I will say that being a parent is the most difficult job.
yeah,
Yesterday, I told my wife I feel like a complete failure as a father.
mm,
Some things happen. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. We got a lot of chaos going on, and but today's a new day. I spent time with the Lord this morning, and I can see them through His eyes, and it's a new day. So it's an up and down battle, but it is the most difficult job, but the most rewarding, I think, at the end of the day, that doesn't get a lot of credit. So definitely don't have it figured out. But those are some of the pieces.
wonderful. Yeah, no, that's good advice. And I think just speaking about some of those practical things is fantastic, Brett. And yeah, you have to trust God at the end of the day, and you also have to trust your kids. I mean, it's wonderful as your daughter's watching you, you're instilling some of your DNA in her and giving her an opportunity to explore things. And then I like your point about just maintaining hope for yourself. I think it's a big job of a business leader is to stay in a place of hope. And it's not a blind hope, but you've got to go back to God on a regular basis. I sat with a business guy recently in a dire situation,
Mhm.
and he's, not out of a great place of faith. He prayed, and God gave him three specific things that he needs to focus on. And that becomes that word, if you like, from God becomes currency to him. It becomes a reinvestment into his business
Mhm.
that he can then speak out and live off of. It's like it's like the financing for a deal. It's right there. Is what is God saying about your business? What is He saying about your family, your kids, their situation? And being going back and getting your hope tank filled up again. I think, we talk about faith, hope, and love, and we think, yeah, hope pie in the sky when you die.
Mhm.
But young people really need hope. I actually sat with a mayor of a big city, not such a big city, about, a million people or two, and I asked him what's his biggest challenge. He said the unemployment then leads to hopelessness among the young people.
Mm.
And so he's got to find a way to create something to be hopeful about and to work with him to restore hope. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
no, I love that.
part of what was behind my question. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
I love that. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think young people and old people and middle-aged people, we're all, it's funny that I have the podcast, Iron Deep podcast, and a lot of the people that write books now are on mental health,
Yeah.
emotional health.
Yeah.
So many things are just being written on just this mental health. Our mental health, I think, is just in a crisis right now. And some people can say it's this or this, and we're divided in our culture, and we're addicted to all this stuff, and we
Right.
can't be still, and it's tough. It's a tough. And one thing about our people blame technology and they blame all these different things and these big companies, addicting us all to these things. And people my age were like, I'm not gonna do technology, we're gonna not even do that. But here's the interesting thing. Young people, um, they don't know any different, right? They don't know. We're like immigrants to technology, right? But they're natives. Like they don't know what it's like without some of that stuff. So you have to navigate through it, coach them up, teach them through it. But you're right. I mean, faith, hope, and love. How do we instill just that hope, that purpose, that meaning? And I think young people, I think today they're looking for meaning, right? They're not, I think our age is like we could clock in, clock out. Hey, let's make some good money. Let's do the
Yeah,
same thing for 10, 20
yeah,
years. They don't want to do that. They would
right.
rather have a purpose and a meaning behind it. So, what does that look like? So, I think when you are a business owner, guys out there, how do you develop the mission? How do you develop that meaning? How do you help them get excited about it? What are they excited about? What's your
Yeah,
team excited about? They might not be excited about the same things you're excited about. So
yeah,
how do you do some of that stuff? So those are some of the
yeah,
things
yeah.
been thinking
Yeah.
through.
So, Brett, going full circle back to the real estate thing, in many respects, real estate got you out of a $1,000 a month situation. You get a deal here, a deal there, and it gave you a step up, if you like, or a step out of the daily grind,
Mhm.
just living hand to mouth. Back all the way circle to your daughter, and perhaps one's a little older than her, those who are sort of mid-teens till 30 years old or so. Do you still see investing in real estate or involvement in real estate as a way, would you see that as a way for young people to actually overcome some of the hopelessness of not being able to afford a home, not being able to afford an apartment, not being able to, or it has that bus gone past? Or would you
Mhm.
still say, man, I could probably get a 15-year-old or a 20-year-old to buy an apartment, fix it up, do something with it? What would you say?
Yeah. No, I love the whole concept. I mean, one of my ideas, actually, I was talking to my daughter this year, is so typically, her and her friends might have some like summer job, and I was like, what if we bought a home and we flipped it, and we got her and let's say there's a couple friends that wanted to do that as a summer job and to fix up this particular home. We teach them about the financials of it all. We teach them about all that. Like that would be a fun thing to do. Uh, so here's my exact words to my daughter because she says, "Should I get my real estate license like when I'm 18?" Because she's navigating colleges, she's navigating what she wants to do, right? And I said, "You don't have to do real estate full time, but real estate should always be a part of your life."
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's an amazing vehicle. I'm so happy that I did. You read about all the what I mean, most of the wealthy people build it from some sort of real estate.
Yeah.
My CPA says real estate investors should never pay taxes.
Yeah.
We've seen we've seen Donald Trump doesn't. He's a real estate investor, doesn't pay much taxes, right? So it's an amazing vehicle.
Yeah.
So learn it. You don't have to do it full time, but you should use it as a vehicle for sure.
Okay. So, Brett, how about you do a summer camp and you get some of your buddies who've been involved in real estate, some of the people from your Iron Deep and so on, and they come, you have your dads and moms and sons and daughters thing. You get them into Indiana somewhere, go into some neighborhood, and you do a summer flip camp and you get them in, you have them in for a month or so. You can, in the evenings, you can teach about stuff, you can do stuff, you can be on the job sites nice and early. They get to learn a whole bunch of different things, worked in team and so on. And you go from you'll have to pre-acquire these things, of course, and get them ready. Maybe even there's a block with 6 condos or something like that, and you can do the whole lot. And then they'll pay to come to you, but they'll potentially earn their way out of it on the way back. And you can teach them all of that.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love it. I would love that. I'm writing it down right now. Yeah, like some sort of summer flip camp. I get an integration of the family. They get to
Yeah,
learn these skills, putting in cabinets or flooring or
yeah,
whatever that looks like, and learn about the financials of it. And they get to
yeah,
see. So here's the honest truth. Like, when I look at my parents teaching, and my dad's highest paycheck was $5,000 a year after 33 years, and I could go in and flip a home and make $65,000 on a deal.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's crazy, isn't it? Isn't that pretty
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
It's eye-opening, and I
Yeah.
think if for kids to just to see that, if they were passionate about teaching, teach, but maybe flip a home and make the same amount,
Right.
you would. Anyways, that's just some thoughts. So
But I love your idea of the summer job. I think that summer flip camp could be fantastic. And at night they can Instagram the thing as they go. They can track it. I mean, part of the stuff that comes out of their world, yeah, they can learn to use a screwdriver, but they can also be posting up on social media and all of that stuff. I think it would be an amazing experience.
yeah,
And if my kids were still young, I would have sent them to your camp, your summer flip camp for sure.
let's do
Yeah,
it. Let's do it.
yeah,
It got me thinking. I got to go find a house. Because I'd love to do it and just with my daughter this
yeah,
summer just to see how it works. So
yeah, yeah. Sounds like an idea. Sounds like a day. You can even get some of the parents to co-invest with you if needed to kind of get the thing up and going. I mean, it's an all-in thing, and win or lose, on the whole deal, I think you'll do fine. But it's
yeah,
all a great learning. I think it'd be fantastic. So
for sure.
sounds like you got your next assignment, Brett.
I love it. Sounds good.
Fantastic. Good. Well, Brett, thank you so much. Any parting thoughts from your side? Just any final things that God's speaking to you about at the moment, or words of encouragement for our listeners as we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is I would say I think just going back to the last comment and just about integration. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that because that was like my word kind of for this year, and it's always just like, yeah, I'm doing some of these things that I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm mentoring, I'm getting mentorship. Uh, but am I bringing my kids along?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that God has instilled in me that the last couple of years is like, yeah, I can, you can write a book, you can do these amazing things. Are you bringing your family with you?
Yeah.
Because if you're not, I don't know. That's not biblical. I just think
Right.
So, anyways,
Yeah.
that's just some things. Just so as you're thinking out there, how can you bring your family along? And it doesn't have to be this big flipping summer camp. It could just be bring them to work one day. I don't know. Just talk to them about what you
Yeah.
do. Just do a little something. So,
By the way, I like the name, the Flipping Summer Camp, better than the Summer Flip Camp.
yeah, right.
Well done. Great. Well, that's a good word, a very encouraging. Brett, thank you so much for taking the time for sharing your lessons. But how can people find you? How can they find your book?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, thanks again, Brett, for having me on this particular podcast. Appreciate it. So Iron Deep DEEP.com is our website. You can get the
Yeah.
book on there. It's also on Amazon. We have our retreats and our events on our Iron Deep website. That's the best place to start. I'd love to chat with you. If you love what you see on it, fill out, there's an application button, fill it out. I'd love to just chat with you about who you are and how we can help, whether it's with us or with somebody else. So
Brett, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And all the best for what you're doing. We'll stay in touch.
thanks, Brett. Appreciate it.